much for including me. Now, these things will come as no surprise to many of you, I think. But, you know, the digital world is absolutely not slowing down, and neither are its challenges. AI is rewriting the rules, talent gaps are widening. There's global instability, organisations are under pressure to adapt fast. Everyone's looking for greater return on investment. The cost of living crisis is making everyone look to technology to create those efficiencies. It's impossible to ignore digital, and it's impossible to engage in societies. We hear more about things like digital ID cards, the digital NHS hospital intervention. You know, this is the moment where we need that strategic leadership. We need to connect innovation and ethics. We need to build awareness to turn at these challenges into solutions so that the digital future works for everyone in society. And BCS, as the UK's professional body for IT, were established in 1957. We're governed by a royal charter, and we protect what it means to be professional, ensuring ethical, competent practice underpinned by standards, skills, and lifelong career support and inspiration. And we've got around 70,000 members. We've got about 100,000 educators in primary, secondary schools and universities, all part of our big, broad community. Now, professionalism in IT doesn't happen by accident, does it? It's protected, it's upheld through a code of conduct, through standards for integrity and accountability and trust. And BCS makes that standard real. So when the digital world is moving fast, professionalism stays grounded. And that's what's so important. And it's really important that this group it builds the awareness, takes that community with it, and makes sure that everyone with any influence can make the change at whatever level that they can make that change. Now, very recently, we welcomed a new CEO, Group CEO, Sharon Gunn, to BCS. We've got a new strategy. Our purpose of making IT good for society stays strong. And our priorities, our top priorities are on professionalism. Of course, you'd expect me to say AI and cyber, the threats and the opportunity of those combined are the biggest things we've got to tackle. And of course, each of these is intersected by digital division in all its forms. And you know, while it's impossible to fully engage with the world without engaging through digital, this change has happened really quickly, and the change is happening really quickly. We're in the change now, and many of us have been able to feel that for a long time, but actually society at large is probably only just starting to feel it in their own sense. And we know that keeping up with digital, I used to be at cutting edge. Now my children are at cutting edge, and I'm saying, oh God, I can't even see it, never mind press the right button. It's really hard to stay up to date, and your place in that digital divide changes, isn't it? And when I'm in London, it's different to when I live where I'm at home in Somerset, where it's a different set of challenges for the schools and colleges and for homes around me. So, you know, it's a fluid thing, and that's why sometimes it's difficult for people to understand. But the good news is that tech professionals care deeply about this, and no more than this special interest group here. So thank you on behalf of BCS for your leadership, for building awareness, for developing understanding, for joining those dots and accelerating the reach and impact of all those interventions. Now, we just want to reflect on the experience of tech professional volunteering a few years ago. We launched the Barefoot programme. Many of you might know about that. It's been around for about 10 years, and it's reached 90% of UK primary schools and supported lots of primary school teachers who, quite frankly, didn't really want to know about digital to be open and to start to embrace some of these opportunities in their classroom. We focused on trying to persuade IT professionals to come and give their subject knowledge and their time to primary school teachers. That was really easy. Everybody wanted to help. That wasn't the hard thing. We didn't think, though, about the skills and the capabilities that the IT volunteer would develop. We focused on what we wanted the school teachers to know and understand. And what we found was this unbelievable growth in confidence around things like public speaking, about influence, about being able to turn complex things into easily understandable, well communicated, you know, being that global translator from the complex to the easily understandable. In fact, Alex was a volunteer from Broadcom in Bristol, highly skilled, top of his game software engineer. I went to a school hall in Weston-super-Mare with him and sort of held his hand because he was faced with a room full of, you know, rather disgruntled primary school teachers who didn't really want to have to teach the new computing curriculum. He was overwhelmed with fear in terms of being the person up front speaking. That wasn't his normal role, etc. And we did a few of these sessions together, and over time, you know, he handed over his software engineering knowledge, we handed over our speaking and influencing and teaching knowledge. And what resulted is his growth in his own career, culminating in him going off to Silicon Valley to run a big sort of conference speech, you know, those sorts of sessions where you're all mic'd up and all those sorts of things. The newfound confidence and skills in his public speaking has such an impact on him and his own career. We'd never set out to do that. So my reflection is, you know, of course, our aim here is to leverage the wonderful skills and capability of the BCS members and wider community in supporting those who experience disadvantage and divide. But actually, if you do that, you'll gain so many experiences and so many skills too. So thank you so much. Really looking forward to this panel discussion. Handing over to Ruby, I think.
Right. Thank you so much, Julia, and welcome everyone. We are now here for our panel session, which is all about, thank you to Julia for giving us that segue. It's all about volunteering your skills that benefit yourself, also benefit others. We have an amazing set of expert panelists here that come from different walks of life and from different industries, who are going to share their own stories and also their daily work and what's happening in their areas as well. Really looking forward to it. So why don't we introduce ourselves to the panel? If we can ask each of the panelists, just give us a 2-minute little intro into yourself, where you work, and we're going to get onto some questions really deep down and dirty about volunteering. But let's just hear who you are, where you work, and why you're here. Starting with yourself.
Oh, thank you. So my name's Lee Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of an organisation called Impact Match, and we exist to help organisations do well, but also at the same time do good. And we do that through a mix of strategy, finding the right people and partners, but also accelerating, a bit like what Freddie was talking about earlier, being able to make those right connections. And we've got a community of over 4,500 impact makers now that help us to do that. And why I'm here is I've got a personal passion for volunteering. I've volunteered all my life since the age of, I was about 12, I think. But in addition to that, I started what we think is still the largest volunteering network for digital skills in Europe, if not the world, for digital champions. And I was part of the original movement back in 2010 to start that movement. So I'm really passionate about unlocking the skills of every member of part of BCS to be able to do good in the world. And I'm absolutely delighted you invited me. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. Welcome, and thank you very much. And next we have Rabina. Welcome, Rabina. Tell us all about yourself.
Well, it's great that I have to follow Lee after all of that. My name is Rabina Sangera, and I have been in probably education for the last 25 years or so. I work currently at World Skills UK, where I'm classed as a high performance skills coach. So I work in the field where we are, as an organisation, working with skills and vocational education competitions. So you think of anything that's related to an apprenticeship or skills related, we run a competition in it at a national scale. We then take those to internationals, and we take them to an international event that has close to 90 countries involved with it. So we get a huge amount of skills and perspective onto what technical excellence looks like. My role is effectively to take all of that and embed it as part of educators' practice. But it's across the board. It's regardless of whatever your specialism is, what does it actually look like? My background itself is obviously digital. And I've been a very happy nerd for 25 years. But I would also say that a lot of that is about inclusion. It's about opening up doors, it's about social impact. And I'm currently a trustee with South Derbyshire Community Voluntary Service, and that actually came out of the last talk here at Digital Divide about that sort of involvement, then the divide with AI literacy, because my current remit is how you build AI literacy back into the workforce.
Fantastic. I love the expression, a happy nerd.
Happy nerd.
Never heard that one before. Welcome, Ravina. Great to have you with us. And finally, to yourself, Dave, and I mustn't call him David because David doesn't exist. It's Dave.
Yeah, only because it's not my name though. Yeah, so I've been a happy nerd for considerably longer than 25 years. So in my day job, I'm a software engineer. I work for Hewlett Packard Enterprise in Bristol. I've been volunteering for BCS for about, I think about 10 years now. So I sit on council. I'm just finishing a stint in the Digital Divide Specialist Group. I mean, really to focus on some other things that are still going to impact BCS, and that's mainly going to be about diversity and equity and inclusivity in the things that BCS does. So certainly still getting involved in BCS related stuff. My day job now involves a lot more coaching, mentoring, early career support than writing software. Still do write software as well. A little bit. But ultimately, my role here is really about digital divide stuff. So my focus on digital divide. So I know Julia talked about a lot of aspects of digital divide, some of which are kind of industrial about how the economy works, how the IT economy works. I don't care about that. I'm happy that other people do care about that, but for me, it's all about the social aspects. It's about socialising, especially socialising for elderly people. My first engagement was about my parents being isolated at the start of lockdown. So that's the direction I'm coming in, is the non-work aspects of how digital divide works and the non-work aspects of how the IT world affects people.
Yeah, great to have you with us, Dave. And it's also about those lived experiences. And that's what the BCS Specialist Group, myself and yourself, are really involved in, trying to get those voices. And I know you've been working with lots of people in the BCS who are volunteers, who do have those lived experiences, and hopefully we'll bring those out during the discussion as well. So we're going to involve a bit of the audience as well. Okay, a couple of questions before we get going. Okay, let's warm up the audience first. Okay, a couple of questions to the audience. Show of hands, have you ever volunteered and used your skills to benefit others? Can we have a show of hands? You've ever
In anything.
In anything, yeah, in anything. Okay. James is the only one that has. He didn't leave the questions. Okay, James. That's practically everyone. Okay, so the next question is, are you a person that's ever benefited from someone else's volunteering skills? Yeah, not so many now, not so many, which is interesting. Okay, so this is all about how can we benefit others as well. So we want to cover 3 key areas. There is volunteering as a growth engine, so growing ourselves and growing others. We're going to cover volunteering as a win-win, because we heard earlier that it's not just about winning for yourself if you volunteer and gain more skills, other people win. So we want to see how can we get that equilibrium. We also want to hear about volunteering for purpose. That's the big one for me. When you volunteer, you want fulfillment in your life as well. So volunteering covers a huge swathe of areas. And these are just 3 big areas that we're going to start shining a spotlight. So if it's okay with the panel, if I just, I'm going to have to read my notes as well. And I haven't got my glasses. So if I read them a bit strange, but hopefully.
Do you want some spare glasses?
I do need some spare glasses. I need children to tell me what I'm reading here. So what will...
So do you want them? Are you sure?
Okay. I might need
I'm very literal.
I wrote very big, and I should have done all this digitally as well, which I have got on my phone as well, but it's okay. So we're going to start with Rabina, if it's okay with yourself. So you're very much involved in kind of the fast moving digital world. You talked about AI and the digital trends that are happening. So how can volunteering help professionals stay ahead in such a fast moving digital world and the new trends that are coming? And how does it not just teach others, but also how to teach our own selves and our skills to stay up to date as well?
I think it's worthwhile remembering that when you talk about digital skills, it's always an area of convergence. It's never done in isolation. It's always done with something else. If you're in your workplace,
Mm.
very often what happens is that you don't realise what your value is or what the skill's value is. It's not until you take it into another space that you actually understand, well, hold on a second, my skills mean this in this space. This is the currency of them. Okay. And it's important that you do that occasionally, because you don't actually know what your growth looks like if you're in a state of comfort. You need to be somewhere else, somewhere where it's challenged, somewhere where you're using your skills in a new capacity or a different capacity to really understand what that growth is going to look like, both for the people that are on the recipient end of it and for yourself. Because that's where the challenges come in. That's where you look at your own skill set and say, well, actually, in this space, it doesn't fit in this way. It fits in this way instead. Actually, I didn't know I could do that. This is how I'm actually going to develop that. Actually, this is new to me. So what does that actually look like when I'm working with people that are saying to me, well, you know what, we don't necessarily need, you know, experience on how to code or how to, we actually need to be able to put this policy together and see if it's going to have an impact. What are the loopholes in it? So even if you've done procurement, even if you've done project management, budgeting, you know, time, you know, all those aspects of those additional skills, until you put them in a new space, they're not challenged, they're not stretched, they're not moved. So you don't always understand that actually in another space, my value is slightly different. You then bring that perception back into your own role and you change by default. Your skills might not have evolved, but your perception has. Things that you were looking at before become more nuanced. You see perspectives you weren't actually privy to prior to that. So it changes how you interact with those. It changes how you actually work with those. It changes the nature of your own communication and the way that you develop your own skills. And that's across the board for anybody and anyone for that. So sometimes it means that you have to be prepared to be doing something different and new to actually realise, well, actually, this is my value to them, but this is what I gain. Gains are huge.
That's excellent. So with the challenge, you're getting growth
Absolutely.
on those new skills.
Yeah.
So would your message be always challenge yourself to an area that you're not comfortable with when you go into volunteering? Don't stay safe, stay challenged.
I'd say don't feel that it requires a challenge. Sometimes the change is very small. You don't need to be at the top end of your career to be. So voluntary can happen right from the get-go. Yeah. Because I'm part of the BCS Women's Committee and I'm an early careers advocate. So I work with those that are just coming in, and my advice to them is the same thing. You network in, you network out, but you network out and you bring back in. So there's opportunities to actually look at your career in a new way. You're not always going to be placed on the projects that you'd like to be placed on in a workplace environment, but you might have that opportunity in a voluntary space. You might not necessarily have an opportunity to talk to senior leadership when you just come into your career role, but you will do if you work in other spaces. It's about looking at that opportunity of actually, what does my skill mean elsewhere in another remit? It also opens up pathways to you. So it might not be a sector that you would have considered before, but it might be something that's new to you. To give you an example of that, I've got a friend who moved from corporate, but took a career break and then decided to actually go and work in the NHS, sat down at a meeting with SLT, and they could not get over that they had an IT project that came in on time and on budget, because they'd never had.
No one's done that.
Well, just no one's done that. Done that, absolutely. But it's because their experiences were very different. You know, some organisations are culturally quite insular. So it's not until externals come in that they realise that there is actually a change or a difference or something else.
Interesting. There's so much of a freshness about that.
It's huge.
And there's so much innovation that can happen from these new skills going to a new area. What I like about what you're saying is it's not an isolated activity. And it's not an inward activity. I volunteer, I get skills. Hey, I'm great now. But we're using those skills to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And those people around you benefit. Just only to the panel, any build on what you've just heard from Ravina?
I would just say that I think it's an and actually, rather than a to your question around skills, because you can use it to go and get new skills as well, and to stretch yourself. That would be the only thing. But I think you've presented it perfectly. It's just such an amazing thing. I mean, I offer people help when they in companies when they're looking at kind of pivoting to more of a purposeful career, or they're reaching their retirement age or whatever that might be, and actually you can give you so much joy I talk about work joy a lot, and yeah, I would just add that to it. Really, it's just a joyful way to spend your life because you're sharing the skills that you've got with people that need them, and you can find work off the back of it. I don't think I've had any volunteers that have offered to work for me when I've been running campaigns or charities that I actually haven't then offered a job at the end of it. So it can be a great way to find work as well.
Yeah, we'll pick up on the purpose bit a bit later, but Dave, any build?
I mean, as a nerd, this is not a zero-sum game. Is the thing that comes back to my head. So everyone's talked about collaboration and sharing, and from volunteering for doing skills skill volunteering, this is going to impact me in a good way. There's no losers in this. This is not a zero-sum game. Everyone wins in this.
Fabulous. Great. We're going to build on a bit more of that. So turning to yourself, Lee. So you, in your introduction, you've had a great career, and you're having you've had a great career because it's still going on, of building amazing digital skills nationwide. A name drop, you've worked with Martha Lane Fox.
Oh yes,
At the very beginning. So everyone knows the Martha Lane Fox from the very early days of lastminute.com for some of us who are old enough to remember.
The original champion, the original champion.
Then I worked in government as well, and she was the champion of digital back in 2010, possibly. Yeah. So Lee's well connected. So you've been around. So my question to you is, can structured volunteering be designed in such a way to help professionals grow while giving, rather than hindering them, and it being a sideshow and some kind of side of desk activity, because that's what sometimes can happen in the corporate life.
Yeah.
So
well, I think to answer your question, yes, absolutely. And if it's designed properly, it's never a hindrance. It's only everybody wins. But it's all to do with being strategic. I'm a massive believer in being strategic at work and strategic in your life as well. So to your point, can it be a win-win, I suppose? Absolutely. By enabling you to, and you can have more impact working as a volunteer in your job, what you do now and the skills you have now, than you can in any other way, because the skills you've got are worth more value. So I have a challenge with organisations that say to me, for example, thank you for coming along to help me design my impact scheme. I'm doing very well on the volunteering side of it because we've got lots of volunteers, and they've been, we value how much time they are by hour, so we get a real value for them. I'm saying, great, what are they doing? And they're like, painting fences. I'm like, that's not good. That is not good, because actually that value that you've said is an average per hour for Paul over there, his skill is actually not in painting fences. So the amount of value he's brought is the value of a painter to that fence. He's not brought the value to the organisation that he could bring to be able to help them. Paul's expertise is in strategy, for example, in social impact strategy. So, he could have made that charity probably return about 5 times on their on investment because of the skills he has, and help therefore 5 times more people. It's not that painting a fence isn't good, but when measuring impact, you've got to think strategically about it. So, and for me, I had some big debates when I was the responsible transformation director at Lloyd's, because the job I needed doing to create impact, the people at that front end were actually the people in store on the telephones, because they were talking to the most vulnerable people day in, day out. And if I wanted to go and find that audience, I could walk to any Lloyd's banking and see them all in the piece there. What I needed was a way to get to them. I didn't need a whole bunch of volunteers to go speak to them. I needed the branch staff to be able to speak to them a certain way. I needed telephony to be trained. And so to unlock that capability and create more impact and create a separate volunteering network, I spoke to those people about the benefits of digital skills for them in their life, and then to be able to pass those on. Leaders at the bank to begin with felt I was like nuts, to be honest with you. They were like, it's like turkeys fighting with a griffin, etc. This is about being able to unlock the capabilities of the skills that you have. And the Digital Champion Network there, which we got to 25,000 colleagues, they voluntarily took their own training to be able to do that job better. They loved it. Their engagement scores increased. They were better at their own jobs, and they were better served. So, the right strategy is key. And for the branch, it was a Trojan horse for cultural change, because they needed to move to a digital transformation network. So being able to understand the benefits of digital helped the bank as well. So win, win, win. Everyone's a winner. But it's about having the right strategy.
And it's about the right outcomes, is what I'm hearing from you, and being able to measure those outcomes. So I don't know about the audience here, but I've worked in corporate life where volunteering schemes that you can sometimes get at corporates or other different organisations are going into a charity and mending a fence or building a loo. Okay, and that's all that we're given. We think this is great, it's charitable. I'm volunteering my time, I'm doing some. They can measure the impact because they've got loo, they've got a new fence. Can we measure it? That fleeting kind of, I have done well, I've done good in the world. It's only fleeting. I can't use those skills. Maybe I can in my house now, paint my house, a wall or something. But you're absolutely right. So structured schemes like social impact actually do allow the individual to measure and the win-win for both sides as well.
Yeah, and it's not that, like in Paul's circumstance, if they wanted to paint fence painting, then speak to somebody who's a networker, you know, because you can get somebody to do that for sure. Like for sure, and use the value of the networker to do it, but put the purpose where the purpose is needed with the skills that are needed, because then everybody benefits. And finding that pivot, it's like I talk about a Venn diagram, what the world needs, what skills you have, what you want to do and what you get paid for. If you can put those all together, you find your absolute purpose in the middle of it, and that brings you immense work joy, and you create a much better world for everybody to live in.
Do you know, you just reminded me of a name drop. I've just come back from Japan. In Japanese philosophy has somebody called, I think it's called Ikigai.
Oh,
Have we heard of this?
Yes.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah, similar, I think. Yeah,
Similar,
yeah.
isn't it?
It's like a passion or a
Yes, your
passion
purpose.
project. Yeah, purpose. Yeah.
Purpose in life that translates to what you get paid for as well in the world. And also, but people are nodding at me. I might be going off at a tangent, but do correct me. It's a bit like your Venn diagram.
Yeah.
In fact, it is the Venn diagram with different petals around it. And it's so you are purposeful in life, in what you do in your work, in your career, in your home life, and strategically who you are as a full person as well. Very interesting, learning new
I'm
things.
going to Tokyo in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I
That's
did.
very,
Yeah.
that's very, very helpful. Yeah, a disability convention. Yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
it's very helpful.
I think I've said it right. Is it Ikigai?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Ikigai.
Lovely.
Thank you.
It just made me think about the difference between kind of formal volunteering and
Yes.
kind of informal volunteering. It was an interesting question when you said about have any of us benefited from volunteering, and I thought not formal volunteering, but then I thought, well, actually, I benefited just because there are so many people you meet who've got different skills, and actually what they're doing often is volunteering their time. It might just be 5 minutes to answer a particular question, sometimes longer, because it ends up being a sort of a informal mentoring thing or something. So I thought that was quite interesting. The thing about painting fences and things, and Lee, I'd love you to be my agent. Thank you very much. If you could afterwards, would be wonderful. Is that there are things to be learned. So I agree, it might not be maximising the benefit. For the volunteers, first of all, it's doing something that they don't normally do, and there is some benefit to that. Then there are things, because we used to do it in Vietnam a lot, where we would have teams from banks or something come out and paint a school, and they get to meet a community, they get to meet youngsters often that they don't know, they see their life from a different kind of perspective. Then there are other things like team building and things which are really important too, where the kind of office politics are left behind a bit, and suddenly you find the person that leads a particular bit of the project is not the senior manager, as would normally be the case, but somebody else entirely. And so you do find different skills and stuff. So but that you might regard that as kind of informal volunteering rather than formal volunteering.
That's what the property is.
Yeah, but otherwise agree completely with Ravina. I thought that was really interesting, is that you are who you are, aren't you? And yeah, you might have a particular skill around accounting, but actually, and that might be why they contacted you, but actually the things that you might offer are going to be completely different from a different aspect of your life and learning. And
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that what you think you might go in with is not necessarily how they perceive you. And the perspectives that you're not there to give all the answers. And that's in any voluntary capacity. You're not there for every answer. You're there to provide an additional support or perspective.
Yeah.
And very often, regardless of where you are in your career, you can provide a perspective that they don't have access to unless they were paying for it. Absolutely. So it's worthwhile getting involved really early on. But yeah, strategic, if it's more strategically aligned, but sometimes you have to guide them in that, don't you?
Yeah,
That's
it's about strategy.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Lovely interaction, by the way. Do come in if anyone wants some comments into this. Let's bring Dave in now. Dave is our BCS person.
Well, in fact, I was going to come in on BCS, if that's okay. If we're thinking about strategy and planning and efficiency of volunteering, then imagine that I am not a BCS volunteer in the sense I currently am. I'm just a BCS member who's not getting involved in
Yeah.
digital divides. I think one common question that I've heard from others is, actually, I do want to do some volunteering. I do want to do some skill volunteering. How do I do it?
Yeah.
And then the question is, it's really quite a mundane one, I think, is where's the infrastructure that says, and it's impact match and it's reach and it's NCVO and it's all the other bits of the third sector that currently exist. But from our point of view as skilled IT professionals, or in fact skilled professionals in any domain, the question is, okay, I've got an hour a month, I've got 2 hours a month, I've got this day and this day and this day, I've got these skills, what do I do? Now, a professional body like BCS or PMI or any other professional body is probably the best placed organisation to say, okay, we can step in and we can help others to redefine, represent, remarket these opportunities for volunteering. We can look at Sophia Plus, we can look at CPD, we can look at what motivates people, we can look at what people need, understand what the voluntary bodies, what the charities need, understand what the volunteers can provide, and do that matching. Where does BCS fit into this picture? Where does a professional body fit into this picture? And how can we make that whole thing better for our members, really?
So we think that that's really good, because now we've got an area that's got structured support there, and it's a case of moulding it in some way to fit another organisation. But because we're doing, can I call it semi-voluntary kind of volunteering in the BCS at the moment, you're heavily involved with those volunteers. What kind of a change do you see in the people that go on as in the BCS?
You mean the volunteers?
That volunteer their time, do something in an unstructured, semi kind of unstructured way.
Yeah, I mean,
What changes do you see in those people?
there's an amazing potential here. I've seen both sides, I think. I've seen people succeed at this and try it for a bit and not succeed at this. I think the success stories are those who throw their hearts into it and use it to network and to learn new stuff and commit to it. And then the success is, I've got a note here, I think you said this, I didn't know I could do that. And the success is that, it's stepping out into a new kind of thing, and it's perhaps feels a little bit less dangerous, less risky volunteering. I've got skills I didn't know I had. I've got skills I didn't have but could develop with some support. And the wins there are, I now know more stuff. I'm now just better, perhaps not in writing software, because it's not IT is not just about that. But for me, the big wins are personal aspects of that. I can now go back to HPE and be better at dealing with people in a number of roles because I've stepped out. So for me, that's the big win that I've seen in myself and in others. And it's the ability to work well with others in who've got this wide range of skills and abilities and roles. That's the win, I think.
A question to all of us here is, how do you encourage people to become the volunteer with a capital V? Okay, because they've got digital skills, they've got some other kind of skills, and yet they're not going out with those skills to do better things with them. How do you, in your own industries, how do you actually get them to make that leap into being a volunteer? Because everyone will tell you everyone is so busy, we haven't got time. In fact, even that tiny bit of air gap that we get, we'd rather use it for something else. How do you actually get people to start with yourself, Lee? How do you actually get people to volunteer in the first place?
You find their culture and their motivation. So with coming back to Lloyd's, for example, or any bank or any organisation, people trying to work out how the organisation needs to change, how people are motivated. And in the case of the branch staff, which are amazing, some of my favourite people, still friends with a lot of them, is their culture was about helping people, giving forward, paying it forward. They're very customer focused, they're very on point. So actually being able to motivate them was not saying become a digital champion, because actually digital was a bad word back then. It was just talking to them in their language about how can they help customers more efficiently, how can they help support people more efficiently. And then we brought digital champions into it as a opportunity to meet their motivation, because there's no point in moving any culture, standing over here and going, you over there, you need to come this way. You've got to go and sit with them, by the side of them, understand their world, what are their needs, what are their wants, how are they motivated. And the brilliant thing that BCS has got is digital skills, which underpins everything. So you can flex it to whatever. The Digital Champion Programme, I ended up having 45 different toolkits want to go into a care home, want to go into a hospital, want to go into a school, all pretty much the same in terms of the skills, but just being able to tweak it, you know,
Yeah.
and that's why this, your membership network is phenomenal, because it can change the world, because it underpins everything.
See some collaborations coming along there, stealing, joyful stealing of ideas. Ravina, how do you think we can get volunteers on board to really benefit everyone?
I think it was really key when you just mentioned the word motivation.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there's this perception, though, that you also need a level of commitment. That volunteering can be formal and it can be informal. And it doesn't have to be your whole life. It can be time limited. It can be a pocket that will have impact. Let's say, for example, everybody in this room took their phones out their pockets. Before they got to the door, they've sent an email to one area of deprived postcode where there's one community centre and offered to train 3 people for 6 hours in a day. That's
Wow.
impact.
Yeah.
Because they will then flow that on.
Yeah.
So it doesn't require huge commitments. And sometimes you need to be able to show people that there's different models of volunteering, that there's different kinds of skill commitment, there's different types of environments that will use their skills in different ways. So often people are probably scared of some of the commitment that's involved in that.
Yes.
They also think they need to be passionate about the cause, whatever that cause might be. And actually, no, you don't. If you have a use and you feel the need to be useful, you can actually apply your skills in those areas where, you know, it might not be the cause for you. And unfortunately, over your lifetime, there will be different causes that will come up, and that's your reality.
Very true.
So you'll be committing to different things at different points, but you can place, you know, a different time on it. You can think about what those different causes are for you. It might be something that's really important to you, or it might be actually right now they're asking for this and I can provide that. So it's about giving people an option to understand that not only can it be useful, but it can also be transactional. And transactional is about that skill. You know, what am I gaining from this? What is my development from this if I do this for this amount of time? So, and there's nothing wrong with that, because volunteering is not about being, you know, unselfish. It can be, you know, and there's nothing wrong with owning that, because there's still something that you're gaining from doing that. So I think very much it's about showing people that actually there's different ways of being a volunteer. You don't have to be somebody that's, you know, hugely giving and unselfish. You can be 100% selfish if you feel like it. You're quite welcome. But it can be, it's about opening up the doors and saying, well, there's these different ways in which you can provide a service, and actually this is your gain. This is what it looks like.
Really interesting. So we've had the culture, got to have the right culture, got to have the right motivations as well. And the right, if I could use the word advocacy as well. Go forward first and do something. So we've got to have those pathfinders as well. You touched on, is the word altruism?
Yeah, we tried really hard not to use it.
I just used the word, but I'll just throw it out there. But Dave, any build, and also on the word of altruism?
I've struggled with expecting too much altruism myself, and I think you're right about it's not unrealistic to expect people to be selfish. And I think as part of that, and building on the cultural thing, and certainly from a BCS point of view, I want to normalise the idea of skilled volunteering as part of professional behaviour. So certainly for BCS fellowship, we're going to expect some kind of skilled volunteering. That's going to be a standard part of being a fellow of any organisation like BCS. But I kind of want to shift that left a little bit and say, if you want to think about, if you consider yourself to be a professional, if you become a professional member of a body like BCS, we have a code of conduct that we expect our professionals to adhere to. And I want to normalise an aspect of that professional life that says you do skilled volunteering, you use your professional skills to volunteer. And I want, if someone says, I'm a professional member of a body, but I don't really do any skilled volunteering, I want the response there to be, oh, okay, well, what's going on there? Why are you not doing that? So to normalise that, every professional member, not just of BCS, but in any domain, lawyers have basically got both hands on the phrase pro bono. Lawyers do pro bono work. And when you think about pro bono work, you think about lawyers. You don't naturally think about other professionals. I want to grab that and say, part of our professional practice is that we do pro bono stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to tag on to that actually, because you said skills volunteering, but you find that especially in public sector organisations, they skills volunteer internally quite a lot. So you'll find that, for example, there'll be educators that'll be doing safeguarding duties, those sorts of things that typically wouldn't be, ironically, a paid role. Again, in places like the NHS and the health services, you know, they'll do wellbeing programs. it opens up other careers for those individuals because they've done that. So sometimes it can be internal to the organisation. You don't even realise that you're tapping into that kind of, but then those organisations to actually see that.
Lee, did you want to put on anything?
No, I just agree with everything that you've said. I think I use pro bono quite a lot. I hadn't thought about it from a purpose point of view, but I just don't think there's any downside to it. I actually don't like the term volunteering because it feels like somebody's taking something from you rather than everybody's winning from it.
What do you call it then?
I think it's just, I honestly just think it's about impact.
Can I
like
jump
that.
in? You know, what sort of one comment I heard, if you come across somebody who's got a medical episode, and then what's the first question you ask? Anybody who's a medical professional, can you help? What tends to happen? They don't say, please pay me before I look at it. They jump straight in there. So that's an example of volunteering.
Yep.
Right. So what kind of profession, as to your point, Dave, what kind of profession be there? We've got a skill and somebody needs some help. Easy. Anyway.
Where would they go to look for that, though? I mean, that might be the thing. I mean, if it's happening in front of you.
I'm happy
Right,
to
right,
offer
yeah.
one's input, but I'm not going to be able to solve all the problems.
If you be here again in 2 weeks and I'll tell you.
Oh,
Pay for volunteering,
Advertising.
to find volunteering opportunities. There's lots of organisations now that are doing.
Where would you advertise the fact that you needed volunteering opportunities? You know, maybe it's an audience that's not used to volunteering. That's the thing. Yeah.
Alert is what I've just heard there.
Yeah.
Final theme we're going to talk about, and we touched on it. Use the word volunteer. Well, what's formerly known as volunteering for purpose. So it also ties into a sense of belonging and fulfilledness. How do we achieve that, especially in the digital world? If we're offering, Ruby, because you've talked a lot about the digital skills at the moment, and you want to find that sense of belonging and giving, but then you've got these digital skills, but then you don't exclude other people who are the other side of the digital divide. How do you find purpose and meaning when you're helping a certain sector of people, but not helping others as well? How would you?
I think that's a really interesting question because it's not an always on situation.
Yeah.
And I think we don't often realise as digital professionals, because we're surrounded by people that are the same as us, often have the same capability and the same skill. It's not until you take it into somewhere else, into a third sector of some, it could be social enterprise, a lobby group, campaigns, it could be obviously a charity or a service that's actually been provided, that you realise how much those skills do not exist and how low, if they do have those skills, they actually are. They're not enough to do certain daily activities that we take for granted. So often you need the exposure to exactly what you've just said, which is the people on the other side of the divide, which are, and that gap is huge. But that's why, I'll talk to an early careers or a transitioner and say, your skills are valid now. Whatever skills you've got are valid now. They're useful now to someone else. Don't wait. Because that growth will happen for you straight away, but the impact you'll have will be, compounded quite quickly for them. So it's, you'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised how low those skills can be. So because I'm a trustee with South Derbyshire Community Voluntary Service, we're very aware that those skills don't exist, that they act as a hub so that people can come to them because they don't have those digital skills. And as services move more online and you have more of these services becoming digitalized or already digitalized, and there's additional barriers now in between, it's getting harder for them to access the help that they actually need. And so any kind of support is useful and helpful.
Very, very.
So as technologies then start to come in,
Yes.
it's not about the gap widening, but it means the tasks are changing. So you then got these charity sectors then in a position where they're trying to pivot for the change, but they don't know what it looks like because we don't know. We don't know what the skills are going to need to be, but we do know that there's going to be an impact of change. But if you've already got a group of people that are on the other side of that, they have no perception of what that looks like for them. And if they can't talk to a human, which is what's happening equally. So most of the services are running on web-based services. They are not with a human, they're with a chatbot. It's harder and harder to explain your situation and to verbalize it. So any level of skill, believe me, is useful, right? You just need to be in that space to have those conversations with people and say, this is what I can do for you.
Yeah.
What is it that you need? That's your starting point. That's not where you stop. What you then do is you look at what kind of things they do need and be strategic, that your skill can then be placed.
So it's amazing awareness to pivot and see another opposite to where you are on your
Yeah.
skills. And I liked what you said there about, and we do this, we find our own tribe, don't we? The people that, you know, are conversant in what
And
we're
that's same with you,
conversant in,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
underneath there is another land of people who are completely opposite.
Completely the
That
opposite.
haven't got an understanding, and our awareness, thanks to the, you know, the Digital Poverty Alliance, Social Impact Match, we're managing to now realize that there is purpose to helping volunteer to help those people. And it's all about finding a blueprint of where it's being done well and then repeating it and flexing it to the situation as well. That
There
needs
is
to
something to
happen.
be said though, that, I
Mm.
mean, one of the things I do in my daily role as a skills coach is I look at how to explain to educators or anybody who's from a technical background that you are an expert in your field, but you've got to unpack that
Yeah.
because you have no idea how much you know.
Yeah.
And what you know, what you don't think is relevant knowing, somebody else hasn't
Mm.
even can't even touch that. So you've got to be able to unpack what you know. To unpack that then means that you then are able to see your layers and where they then can sit strategically as to
Mm.
what it can actually do and what impact it can have. But for that, you have to be somewhere else. You've got to understand what the gap is between you and that where you're currently working or where you look, what you're looking at, for you to realise actually, I need to unpack all of this. Because we assume our skills, we sort of
do.
stimulate our skills, we don't
Absolutely,
even
yeah.
realise how much we know.
We live in our own tribes, exactly.
We obviously are this, you know, and that's part and parcel of the reason why you do need to be in different spaces.
We do.
Yeah, I've got a good story about that.
Go for
actually.
it,
So I suppose I always thought I was best at operations. And I didn't realise I was strategic at all until Baroness Martha Fox pointed it out to me, because we were talking about what I should focus on next in my career. And I just thought it'd be ops director or whatever, which is what I did for her before I became her MD. And she said, actually, your best skill is strategy. And I think that because I'm strategic, it made me a good program director, a delivery person, because I understood what things needed to be taken account of in the plan. But that made me assume I was an ops person. So actually having somebody like you to work with somebody to unpack your skills can completely change your career. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a good lesson to all of us. We think we know the skills and we think we know what we're good at.
Yeah.
Have someone else tell us, Dave.
Well, yeah, so it's you have no idea how, I can't read my own writing now, something you said a moment ago that I've written down. So I don't know what my skills are. Well, in fact, from a BCS point of view, we've done the work already to understand what skills exist, what skills are like, and then it's down to you, the professional member, it's down to you, the skilled person, to understand what skills you have. So we look at Sophia Plus, we do understand those. So in fact, I think this is a great way to say, how does BCS fit, how any professional body, other professional bodies, other domains, how do we fit into this third sector? I think one of the ways we fit in is by saying, who provides the language that we can use to say, what does this charity need? What can this volunteer provide? Sophia Plus is that language, something like it anyway. So, well, actually, if you look at charity requirements, we look at Sophia Plus levels 1, 2, 3, up to 8.
Yeah.
I think something you touched on, incidentally, in my mind, chimed with, actually, these skills are like 1 and 2 skills. The volunteer, in my experience, is going to say, oh yeah, but I haven't got skills to do this. No, you really have. One of the first requirements that we had in Bristol and Bath was a charity, a city farm, saying we need someone to jump in and have a conversation with BT on our behalf to make the Wi-Fi go. To which our skilled volunteers are going to say, oh, okay, I didn't realise that the ask was so low compared to what my skills are. You don't know what skills you've got. You also don't know what skills charities require, but we, BCS, can provide that language to make that communication work, because that's exactly where our domain is.
Amazing. Yeah, I like the panelists here, because we've all got different areas that we're very good at, but they're gelling together, and your solutioning on how the BCS can work on this is fantastic. And that's what we're all about, trying to join up here. We've got about 8 minutes or so. So one of my last questions before we go to questions is, it's a bit of a double-loaded question and it's going to be, how can volunteering have a lasting impact in your lives? And what would you leave our audience with for them to take away one thing that they could work on and, you know, just think over more and more and take back into their organisations? So shall we start with yourself?
And so first question was, what would they take away?
We can do that one first. That was the last question.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. The first one was, how can volunteering have a lasting impact?
Okay.
And how can the audience here take away one thing that they've learned? What would you give them? Your gift.
So yeah, lasting impact is digital skills is the key enabler of our time. So so this audience is primed for that. So it's not like I'm talking to an audience
know, the
that
hands
doesn't
went
have the
up.
digital skills. So I think everything that you do, if you're using digital skills capability to give that to other organisations or people, is immense. If you give it to a charity, they'll be able to reach 5 times more people for less cost. If you give it to a hospital, they'll be able to help more people for less cost. You know, like all your skills are useful. So to your point, compounded. So it's really unusually for me, when I'm talking to a similar audience but in a different profession, I'd be saying, you know, look at digital skills, but you've got them. So to keep them sustainable is about being strategic, like absolutely. So, and I'm all about kind of painting fences and what have you, because it does bring you other skills, but I'm very selfish in that I'm trying to create as much impact in my life as possible. So I want everybody to be strategic. We are nowhere near the SDG goals. Charities alone will not be able to make it. If you pivot to purpose in your career, you make that company achieve much more than it would do otherwise. Help charities as well, but help the organisation you're in, we might have a chance of getting there. Organisations are more trusted than media, than charities, the lot of them. You know, like all the organisations that people in your network sit in, pivot them to a career, to impact. And then for the one thing that I would suggest to everybody is just kind of really think about your life with purpose at the same time as your career. When those two merge, and your passion, and I think passion is important, for your personal passion, because it's not easy to do this sometimes, and you need to be able to feel that you're helping the passion that you have. But you can pivot any of your skills to any of your passions and any organisation. That's my challenge to everybody, that you can have a life of purpose, have a joyful life, have loads of work joy, and help the world be a much better place. It's really easy, but be strategic.
Very nice, thank you. And you have to read about Ikigai, because
I will.
packages it all.
Well,
very
yeah,
nicely
I'm very
for you.
excited about going there and talking about that. Yeah.
Fantastic. We've just got that. You guys could be just brief in about 30 seconds, because I want to get some questions from the audience if we can.
I think probably just to reiterate what I was saying, that anybody can volunteer at any point.
Yeah.
It's a great driver for skills, and to really expose yourself to the breadth of what's actually out there means that you get a better perspective on what you're doing professionally if you're better exposed to other areas and different skills. So I think it's about not holding back, you know, not waiting.
Not holding back.
I mean, very, very similar. I think that the one thing that the lasting impact can be, let's normalise volunteering as part of professional practice.
I really do like that. Yeah. And anything for the audience to take away?
I never expected to be talking about professionalism, because that's not my thing at all. It's really understand your skills. I mean, look at skills models, look at Sophia, look at whatever skills models are relevant in your own domain. If you're not inside IT, understand what skills you've got, understand that they may well be a lot more valuable than you imagined. Don't underestimate yourself.
Wonderful. And finish on. Any questions from the audience? Is there anything that you've heard or any comments that you'd like to make from listening? Don't be shy. Well, we've got 3 questions, so I'll go to yourself first, and then we'll go to yourself, Charlie, and then to yourself.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just a kind of observation on that whole painting fences versus the Skillshare. I work in a charity sector, have done for a long time, and work in corporate partnerships. So it's very much about volunteering programs. And I think the big thing is what does the charity need? So I currently work at London Zoo. We do need fences painting, and we need pygmy hippo moat cleaning out, and we have Bloomberg and Goldman's come along to do that. they really enjoy doing something for conservation. They really enjoy doing something that's very different to their day job. That means that they can get out of their headspace and they can meet and socialise with other colleagues. So I think, you know, we have typically volunteering started with that. And I think that is a good thing to kind of recognise. But I think the change comes with actually to recognise that Skillshare is, as you're talking about, is hugely important and valuable. And I don't think charities understand how much they can get the Skillshare, the professional skills as well. So I worked at Jangala previously and worked on pro bono lawyers, setting up a trading subsidiary for us, and also worked with the tech industry to provide us with a lot of the things that we needed to scale, which we didn't have the in-house capability. And if we paid for it, or if we bought it in and set it up, we didn't have that kind of investment level. So I think I've been at both ends of the spectrum, and I think it's what strategically would be most important to the organisation, and having a really nice environment to welcome visitors is very important for a Trustpilot thing, as that's equally strategic as is getting someone to help with very complex tech development.
And my answer to that, I think, is being strategic. Is Dulux would give you the paint for free.
We
They would
do
give you
that.
the volunteers, and they would give you the more expertise to bring you more impact, and maybe adopt a digital mind support to be able to create a database of everything you need, using a digital champion, somebody with digital skills, to be able to create the matching for the zoo. So that would be my response. So it wasn't to say that painting fences isn't important, doesn't bring all the softer skills for the team as well, which is really key. But being able to optimize impact all the time is what I'm about, and to be able to do that in a really sustainable way. So that you get more. It's all about social impact, social return on impact. So it's a calculation, and I think just thinking with that mindset can really help charities much more proficiently.
From the other point of view, from you as a coach, I can Rob, I do a little bit of coaching myself, but you'll do more of it, I think. From a coachee's point of view, what do I want? As a volunteer, I might want to increase my skill set in software or something to do with IT. I might want my skill set to include something that's going to work with the painting thing. The individual volunteer, I might be doing IT stuff. Actually, this is going to fit in with my goals. The painting is going to fit in with my goals, and I can do that. But that's where understanding what the thing is, understanding what the skills required are. That's key to doing this matching.
We also we built products at Jangala as well. We used to get guys coming from ARM to come, and actually they like to use their physical, because it's something kind of like different, and it brings in kind of like DIY skills that they like doing in their spare time.
I think that all fits in with the model we're thinking of here. We use the painting as an example of how not to do things, but in fact the painting thing might well fit into this model.
I think you do need to be careful though. One, painting the fences is a need. When we're talking about impact, it requires a level of investment, and that's where the strategy would be. So, and when you're talking about impact, you are talking about the sustainability of something. You know that it's going to have an ongoing aspect to it. So when we're talking about skills, we're talking about that investment aspect of it. So I think it's really clear that sometimes, even with an organisation, and charities in particular, it's not just need. What else do you need to look at to make this something that's sustainable? So in which case then what's the skills? So I think it's really interesting based on what you've just said there, you really face that need, or is that the long-term impact, what we're looking at there. And I think that's part and parcel of how people should look at their own volunteering.
I think it's great because it's a real world example that we've just gone through here, which is really,
it's really helpful.
really helpful. Charlie, you had a question?
Yeah, I'd just be interested in the panel's views on impediments to volunteering. So, you've got, probably most people in this room do some kind of volunteering. If they're in the BCS committee, they're volunteering, what it might be. But there's a lot of people that don't do it, and there's the good reasons for that. And I just wondered, removing impediments, what's potentially are the impediments, and what can we do to talk about how those impediments can be removed?
Challenges.
Infrastructure. I'm a volunteer. I've got skills. I want to do some stuff. What do I do next? It's the absence of something simple that says, imagine I'm allowed to give an hour a week. My employer will pay, in fact, my employer will pay a lot more than an hour a week. I've got the time, I've got the skills, I understand the skills, I just don't know what to do next. I think that's the big impediment. So there are things out there that will aid that, but they're not tied together very well, I think. So the big impediment is I just don't know what to do next as a volunteer.
Anything else, Ravina?
I think partly what I was saying before, some people don't realise that actually they can do volunteering in lots of different ways. And sometimes it's also about the perception of volunteering. You know, actually I can commit an hour to this particular activity that involves my skill set. So we've sometimes got to be able to demonstrate to people that there are different ways of actually being a volunteer or volunteering your skills or volunteering your time. And people, they're not very imaginative, you know. People in this room already know how they can volunteer, what they can actually do, because they're doing it. That's why we're here. But everybody else sometimes needs to know that actually this is how to make that transition. This is what it looks like, which is what you were just saying. So sometimes it's about putting that infrastructure in place. Sometimes it's about modelling it, showing what the different models are that are available. And you know, there's sites already out there that people don't even use, like doit.org, you know, which is about exactly that. You know, that's sort of skills exchange or skills offering. This is the kind of skill we're looking for, and then you go in there and you have. So it's about providing aspect of that.
No, all I was going to say, I've got to, I was listening to you. The thing for me is, and I completely agree with you on the point of how easy it is. Like I'm a trustee of AbilityNet, and we were talking earlier about potential partnership with BCS because they provide skills to older people and they need the digital skills. But I was interested in, what do you think is a normal impediment? Because then I'll be able to answer your question.
Well, you know, some people don't have any time. So because they've got young family or they got whatever it is, or they got prison in life, and so they're not bothered really. So they're not bothered, they're not able to give. Right. But some people are then thinking, well, like Dave's mentioned, well, what we'll do next. But there's maybe some other things about the confidence stroke, pardon me, the worry of what that will mean next, right? Yeah. So you give some time for a bit and you think, you know. Yeah. Then the next time they're going to call me back, you know, and I don't, you know what I mean, and so on and so forth, right? You know, so it's that safety, I think, to me, which is potentially missing.
It's just mental.
You know, I'm not saying the wrong answers. I was just in the view. So
that's
I think that's interesting, because I think those do speak to the reasons why people don't want to get involved.
No.
But they don't mind volunteering some time. And I think which is why we said, you know, it doesn't have to be a commitment. It is about saying, you know, this is what I can actually offer right now and this is what's available. It is about saying, well, I've only got 6 hours, this is what it looks like, but then having an infrastructure in place.
Can I offer a comment to, you asked a question earlier on about how do we get help from a volunteer? So for example, the biggest help I got from a volunteer was the fact that they said to me, Freddie, being a volunteer is easy, but supporting a volunteer is not easy. But it's important to support a volunteer. So that is the key. That's the infrastructure to support you to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fabulous. We've just got one final question. Great.
All the years that I have been volunteering at the libraries for a children's reading summer scheme, and to do barista work at New Addington Baptist Church as my work experience and placement, and also as I work as a volunteer at Horniman Museum. After work as a volunteer at Horniman Museum, I have to return my studies at college, and because they can't do volunteering into like volunteering and education, but I have to focus on my education. The second question is, volunteering in IT to improve our skills and gain more experience in IT, such as communicating and to work on computers and databases and software engineering. All the others are after getting job rejections. As a weaker candidate, volunteering is the better option to become a stronger candidate.
Yeah, that's a good point. So well done for alongside your studies to do the volunteering. Well done for that. I can remember when I was at school, I think I hardly did any volunteering. I don't think it was in vogue at the time. It's good to hear. Do you find a lot of people around you are volunteering at
Yes.
age group as well?
Yes, I do.
Good. That is really good. I think generations of people change their perceptions, don't they? Go for it, Dave.
I mean, things like D&E and other educational things incorporate volunteering as a standard part of
That's
that.
good to hear.
So we know that at school, and D&E is not for everyone by any means,
Yeah.
but it does build in that notion of volunteering as a valuable thing with the intent to make it a standard part of life as life goes on. Well, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to chip in with that one because the other aspect is we didn't talk about how organisations can volunteer, so that they can, you know, work as part of employer boards. They can actually be involved as part of, like, for example, apprenticeship programs, T-level programs, where they're actually, you know, giving space to a learner to actually be somebody who gains the skills. So it's not just us as individuals. What is your organisation able to do? How are they able to support that process? So you mentioned about infrastructure. Your infrastructure could be much wider in terms of its own impact and how it actually drives it. So, you know, the different ways in which not only you as an individual can your organisation get involved. What can they do to support that sort of skills development?
We've got some comments. I think these more comments,
Yeah, more
aren't they?
comments, yeah,
More
but
than
there's a knowledge there, yeah.
questions, about pro bono, being able to do this. So Tim, thank you, Tim. Forgot to say to our audience, we've also got an audience online as well. Hopefully I did not ignore our online audience as well. So thank you so much for joining us. So Tim, your comment, I'm just going to read it out. And he said, sitting on the other side, I think there is an understanding that giving time and skills is not just about working with charities pro bono, although it's a really good model. I think that there is the need for most organisations need a generalist also. There needs to be, need my glasses. It's all about collaboration.
Not plus.
Yeah. It's a bit collaboration, and there are some organisations like Wavelength that are doing some great digital projects as well. So this is all good and great comment. Thank you, Tim. Sorry, I hadn't got my glasses on at the time.
And then just one other comment from Tristy.
Tristy, yes.
Yeah, Tristy, you mentioned about, we all know Tristy, right? Tristy talks about giving back time. So it's about the fact that volunteering comes in many shapes and forms, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
don't let the word stop you from doing something.
Yes.
I like that. And
I think there is something to mention just on the back of what Tim said.
Yeah.
It's also to remember things like, you know, IT is huge for open source. You know,
It
that's
is,
all
yes.
volunteering. You know, we've got a huge number of, you know, applications, communities, forums out there. They're all forms of volunteering. And I genuinely believe that as an industry, we're probably the biggest that actually creates those grassroots movements.
yeah,
And then you've got all your tech groups that are actually out there, Women in Tech York, Tech Nottingham obviously, and you know, there's lots of different pockets, loads in Manchester and stuff, but there's a huge number of different ways in which people are already creating pockets where there's that skills and knowledge exchange.
Yeah.
So there's different ways and different levels of commitment.
Yeah, it's a fantastic project that GitHub did with UNDP to map the digital literacy of all the countries across the world. And you can go on it, the digital compass, you can go on it and you can understand which level of digital literacy every country's at. And GitHub employees mapped the UNDP's data.
Yeah.
amazing. We are out of time because I can see Freddie is hovering over me at this moment in time. What I want to say is a big thank you to our expert panelists, to yourself, Dave, to Rubina and to Lee. Thank you so much for sharing your great expertise. I'd like to thank the audience for being so engaging and for coming today, because we've really had a great conversation with you. Thank you for the questions as well. Anything you want to ask our panelists, please do talk to them later. Thank you.
Yeah.